Hare Krishna. So, here the purport Prabhupada is giving how differently we can handle these situations. And Prabhupada, I was reading the verse where it is. Yes. The argument offered by Sati is that a person who vilifies a great personality is the lowest of all creatures. So here it is very clearly that her anger is only because the greatest of Vaishnava, Shambhu, the Lord Shankar is being blasphemed by not giving any ablution, or even no mantra was recited on his name, and it was completely neglected. But here Sati shows that all my material relations are irrelevant to me because you are not giving due respect to, not because my husband, but is the purest of pure devotee, who is always chanting and he is always in equilibrium on his dealings are demonstrating a perfect Vaishnava. So Prabhupada saying that such person is the lowest of all creatures. But by the same argument, now he is counter arguing Prabhupada. Daksha could also defend himself by saying that since he was a Prajapati, the master of many living creatures, and one of the greatest officers of the great universal affairs, his position was so exalted that Sati should accept his good qualities instead of vilifying him. So Prabhupada puts in a counter argument that even Daksha could have been thought like this because he is an exalted position. But one has to think in the materialistic view of thinking, even to the present day, if you put this argument to the public, they would say, what is the wrong with? Because he is a father-in-law and he is also holding a very responsible position. So, and also in that arena, Lord Shiva is not there. Though the previous sacrifice instant was there, but in this arena, so it is not. So if you ask general public, the argument will be put in like this, because that is the materialistic mentality. But those who are in a devotional platform, they know one has to be valued for his spiritual elevation and spiritual position, not by the material designations. So the Prabhupada's argument is like that. Even Daksha could have thought like this. The answer to that argument is that, again, Prabhupada giving us clarity. The answer to that argument is that Sati was not vilifying but defending. Is not vilifying her own father but defending her husband and pure devotee. If possible, she could have cut out Daksha's tongue because he blasphemed Lord Shiva. This verse is spoken by Mother Sati. So she knows the Vedic culture, what one has to do. One is blaspheming. Blaspheming is not only if not giving due respect, also blaspheme. That's what we are understanding here now. So here blaspheming is done. And what is the punishment for that? That is also she narrated already. But how Prabhupada is giving the purport to that is really amazing. Sati was not believing. If possible, she could have cut Daksha's tongue because he blasphemed Lord Shiva. In other words, since Lord Shiva is the protector of the religion, a person who vilifies him should be killed at once. And after killing such a person, one should give up one's life. That is the process. So she knew that. That's why she's reciting. And it is very clearly said that one, she has to pull the tongue and cut the tongue of Daksha, and she has to kill him, and then she has to give up one's life also. This is the process that she knows very well. But because Daksha happened to be the father of the Sati, she decided not to kill him, but to I am busy with something. Can I call you back after an hour, 1 hour? You didn't get pricing? No, not me. I sent to the team. They will send you. Okay. I'm sorry. She decided not to kill him, but to give her up own life in order to compensate for the great sin she had committed by hearing blasphemy of Lord Shiva. So she is also demonstrating the character, because if she heard it, that means she is a sinner. So in our daily life also we have to be very careful. If a devotee is blaspheming other one, first of all, it is our karma that we are happen to hear that. And our first response should be politely, humbly, we should leave the place. This is the devotee's response, first response. The instruction set forth here in Srimad Bhagavatam is that one should not tolerate at any cost the activities of person who vilifies the blasphemes an authority. So it is not a Vaishnava culture that after hearing all that, we should show so humble, hear everything and give our opinion and leave the place. No. According to our capacity, we have to. But in this response, in this similar situation, many cases happened in Srimad Bhagavatam. And what was Prabhupada's purport and the devotee's response, we will discuss after this. So the purport says, the translation says that one has to leave the place, and it says one has to pull the tongue and cut the tongue, and he or she has to kill the person, and one has to give up the life. So there are three kinds of responses given to that in the translation. And Prabhupada is giving a beautiful purport to it and how that response should be. If one is a Brahmana, he should not give up his body, because by doing so, he would be responsible for killing a Brahmana. So Brahmana Hatya is not only if killed by someone else, even if he kills himself, it is a Brahma. It's a great offense. So he cannot do that. He will be responsible for the killing a Brahmana. Therefore, a Brahmana should leave the place or block his ears so that he will not hear the blasphemy. If he is a Brahmana, that should be the response. He immediately should cover completely close his ear and leave the place. But if one happens to be a Kshatriya, he has to, and he has the power to punish any man. Therefore, that is his duty. Kshatriya's duty is that if someone is an offender, aggressor, he has to punish. Therefore, Kshatriya should at once cut the tongue of the vilifier and kill him. He can do that because he is meant for that. But as far as the Vaishyas or Shudra are concerned, they should immediately give up their own bodies. They should not do the two above, but it is my bad karma that I heard this one, then they have to end up this body. This is the Vedic injunction. That's how it is mentioned. Sati decided to give up her body because she thought herself to be among the Shudras or Vaishyas. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 9. How come she becomes Shudra? It is given as Striyo Vaishyos Tada Shudra. These three are put in one category, 9.32. Women, laborers, and mercantile class are on the same level. Thus, since it is recommended that Vaishyas and Shudras should immediately give up their bodies upon hearing blasphemy of an exalted person like Lord Shiva, she decided to give up her life. So there was many reasons for her to give up her body, because the offender was her father, so she cannot do anything else other than quitting her own help. So here Daksha is a big offender of a Vaishnava. So in Bhagavatam, if we start from Canto 1 to Canto 12, we will see so many devotees and dealing of devotees in how they offend other devotees and what happened to them, like that. I've taken a few from the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where how the devotees are offending other devotees and what happened to them. For that, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, if we take Canto 1, 13th chapter, 59th purport, Prabhupada says like this: Vidura was astonished to see the marvelous departure of his brother Dhritarashtra as a liberated yogi. Yes, we all know that, how the story, how it happened, how he pulled out Dhritarashtra from the palace of Yudhishthira, and finally he gave up his own, he created his own fire and he self-immolated and he left the body, and Mother Gandhari also followed him. So here Vidura was very happy. In the past life, he was much attached to the materialism. Of course, it was only due to Vidura that his brother attained the desirable goal of life. Vidura was therefore glad to learn about it, but he was sorry that he could not make his brother turn into a pure devotee. And Prabhupada giving a reason why, even though Vidura was a very exalted devotee, why he couldn't make Dhritarashtra a devotee. This Prabhupada giving, this was not done by Vidura because Dhritarashtra being inimical to the Pandavas, who were all devotees of the Lord. So there he did a great offense by offending the devotees. An offense at the feet of Vaishnava is more dangerous than an offense at the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord says that in many places, you can deal with me, you can offend me, and then and definitely I will wait for you for your recrimination. But if it is the offense to the devotee, then the result is very, very strong. Vidura was certainly very liberal to bestow mercy upon his brother Dhritarashtra, whose past life was very materialistic, but ultimately the result of such mercy certainly dependent on the will of the Supreme Lord. And in the present life, therefore, Dhritarashtra attained liberation only. He did not get a bhakti, or he did not go to Vaikuntha. And after many such liberated states of life, one can attain the stage of devotional service. That's why even Prabhupada says, liberation of becoming oneness with the Lord, that is the preliminary or spiritual suicide. One goes to Brahmajyoti and come back again, taking many lives, and then attain the Bhakti or Vaikuntha. Vidura was certainly very mortified by the death of his brother and sister-in-law, and the only remedy to mitigate such lamentation was to go out of pilgrimage. So he know that he could do whatever possible. That's all. So the Dhritarashtra case is offense to the offensive mentality to the devotees of the Lord. Pandavas was the reason he couldn't get the highest benefit, even though he was guided and benedicted by his own brother and a pure devotee Vidura. To the purport of first canto 18th chapter 17th verse, Prabhupada says again, this is for the beautiful pastimes of the birth of Srimad Bhagavatam. Everyone is responsible for his own action, either pious or sinful. So the reaction is definite. If it is pious, then the punya karma, that also will have a reaction. And if it is sinful, that also will have a reaction. Prabhupada says, Rishi Shamiga could foresee that his son had committed a great sin by cursing the Maharaj Parishit, who deserved to be protected by the Brahmanas, for he was a pious ruler and completely free from all sins because of his being a first-class devotee of the Lord. Though he was in an exalted position, Parishit Maharaj was a pure devotee. And Shamiga Rishi immediately understood that Shringi made a great mistake. Now, the reaction will, for sure, definitely it will come. When an offense is done unto the devotee of the Lord, it is very difficult to overcome the reaction. The Brahmanas, being at the head of the social order, are meant to give protection to their subordinates and not to curse them. But he has done a great, grave mistake. Then Acharya says that the falling of Brahmanas, the fall down of Brahmanas of the age of Kali started from that incident. There are occasions when Brahmana may furiously curse subordinate Kshatriyas or Vaishyas, etc. But in case of Maharaj Parishit, there were no grounds, as already explained. The foolish boy had done it out of sheer vanity in being a Brahmana's son. It's his own pride and ego made him to do this. And thus he became liable to be punished by the law of God. The Lord never forgives a person who condemns his pure devotee. Therefore, by cursing a king, the foolish Shringi had committed not only a sin but also greatest offense. Rishi Shamiga also knew that Lord does not forgive a person who has committed an offense at the feet of the devotee. So, that is the beginning of Kali, or end of Dwapara, and we are seeing the symptoms of it. Here, Shringi committed great sin to the devotee, and then the great offense and the punishment is happening to the Brahmanas to the present age. And in the verse number 48, again Prabhupada says, the devotee of the Lord are also forbearing, that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they were never inclined to avenge themselves. And what is their response? We all undergo this one. And when we undergo similar things, either we are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed. That's what Prabhupada is saying. But they were never inclined to avenge themselves, because they take all the reversals of life is the mercy of the Lord. Rishi Shamiga also knew that the Lord does not forgive a person who has committed an offense at the feet of the devotee, the Lord can give direction to take shelter of the devotee. That is the only way. We know that this is what happened to when Ambarish Maharaj was offended by Durvasa. So this is the case. He thought within himself that Maharaj Parishit would countercurse the wife, then he might be saved. See, Brahmanas, how intelligent they are. Rishis, out of his compassion, Samika Rishi was expecting the Parikshit Maharaj would countercurse, if at all he is countercursing Shringi, then he will lose his power, all his piety and his even devotion, because he is falling down. And then in that way, his son will be saved. But also he knew that Parishit Maharaj is a pure devotee and he will never do that. But he knew also that a pure devotee is callous about the worldly advantages or reverses. They are not care about that. As such, the devotee are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence, etc. As far as such things are concerned, in personal affairs, the devotee do not care for them. But in the case of being performed against the Lord or his devotees, then the devotees take strong action. That's what here Mother Sati is doing. It was a personal affair, and therefore Rishi Samika knew that the king would not. But see, here Parikshit was offended, not any other devotee of the Lord. So it is coming to him personally. It is seemingly a reversal in his life. He was a king, went to the forest as a king, coming out as a complete mendicant. He removed his crown and immediately he renounced everything. And he knew that my time has come. I have to perfect my life in the given time. So he knew that. So the reversal, he took it as an advantage or an opportunity to perfect the life. This is the reaction of the pure devotee. Because it was a personal. Even he would have responded differently if the Rishi, Samika Rishi, or in this case, Samika Rishi was really an innocent, but bearing a son like Shringi is a kind of punishment for him or a sin that he was also undergoing, having such son. But here his response was so amazing. If they offended any other devotee of the Lord, then Parikshit Maharaj's response would have been different. And therefore, Samika Rishi knew that the king would not take counteraction. Thus, there was no alternative than to place an appeal to the Lord for the immunity by. So, intelligent Samika Rishi, he knew that there is no other way. We have to go to him. Maharaj Parishit became a victim of an offense, even though he was ever unwilling to commit such mistake. These are all Lord's play, as we discussed, for the generation or for the gift that we all have, Srimad Bhagavatam, the birth of that happened after this incident. To the purport of 19th chapter 17th verse, Prabhupada says, Maharaj Parishit freed himself from all sorts of material association and meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord, and that is the way of liberation. He found that. So now this is the response I should show. To be free from all material association means to cease completely from committing any further sins. To meditate upon lotus feet of the Lord means to become free from effects of previous sins, free from the effects of all previous sins. So in Kali Yuga, everybody commits sins. And surrendering unto the lotus feet means that is the process to nullify all our previous sins. But after doing the prayachita removes and then atonement, and then again new Srimad Bhagavatam refers that as Kunjara Saucho. Again and again we commit mistake. Again and again we commit sins. The condition of the material world are so made that one has to commit sins willingly or unwillingly. And the best example is Maharaj Parishit himself, who was recognized sinless pious king. But for that fraction of minutes, he did that. But he also became a victim of the offense, even though he was ever unwilling to commit such mistake. He was cursed also, but because he was a great devotee of the Lord, even such reverses of his life became favorable for him. The principle is that one should not willingly commit any sin in his life and should constantly remember the lotus feet of the Lord without deviation. Only in such a mood will the Lord help the devotee make regular progress towards the path of liberation and thus attain the lotus feet of the Lord. Beautiful words by Srila Prabhupada. Even if there are accidental sins committed by the devotee, the Lord saves the surrendered souls from all sins as confirmed in the scriptures. So, as a pure devotee, what happens? Kleshagni, all kleshas goes, the sin goes. The sin becomes never a sin because they are all fried. To the second canto, first chapter, 11th verse, Prabhupada in the purport says, Srila Jiva Goswami instructs that chanting of the holy name of the Lord should be loudly done and it should be performed offenselessly as well as recommended in the Padma Purana. Why it is said? One can deliver himself from the effects of all sins by surrendering himself unto the Lord. One can deliver himself from all offenses at the feet of the Lord by taking the shelter of his holy name alone. So, we don't have to go and find what is the prayachita. Only by loudly chanting the holy name of the Lord will suffice. But one cannot protect himself even if one commits an offense at the feet of a holy name of the Lord. Wow, it's a grave offense. Such offenses are mentioned in the Padma Purana as being 10 in numbers that we know. 10 offenses we commit, starting from the blaspheming the devotees who have committed, who has dedicated the life of the propagating the name of the Lord. So we all know that. Offense by one at the feet of the pure devotees may be likened to the mad elephant. It is mentioned in, I think in Chaitanya Charitamrita also it is mentioned. It is a mad elephant who devastates the very good garden if it enters. Mad elephant, very strong, powerful, out of conscious, then it will spoil everything. So the Vaishnava aparat is compared to that. One must be very careful to guard himself against such offenses at the feet of a pure devotee, just as one protects a creeper by all around fencing. Why we keep why we keep fencing around the creepers of any other plant? Because we know that the creeper is the essence and it needs protection. Like us, we have to be protected ourselves by not committing any sin to the Vaishnavas. And if happen to happen, the only solution is falling at the lotus feet of that devotee, whomever it may be, in age, in seniority, whatever the designation, whatever the capacity they are, falling at their lotus feet, genuinely seeking their mercy is the only solution for that. Prabhupada says this many times, and the Amarish Maharaj pastime also explains as that. In the second chapter of the second canto, 38th verse, Prabhupada says, when we speak of hearing and chanting, It means that not only should one chant and hear the holy name of the Lord Rama and Krishna, or systematically the 16 names of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. But one should also read and hear the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. The primary practice of Bhakti Yoga will cause seed already sowed into the heart of sprout, and by regular watering process, as mentioned above, Bhakti Yoga creeper will begin to grow. By systematic nurturing, the creeper will go to such an extent that it will penetrate the covering of the universe, as we have heard in the first reaches the effulgent sky, the Brahmajyoti, and then go further into the spiritual sky, where there are innumerable spiritual planets called Vaikunthas. Above all them is the Krishna Loka or Golok. So when we chant, the creeper will grow like this. It is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. When one reaches the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna, the Golok Vrindavana, the watering process of hearing and reading, as also chanting the holy name of the Lord, pure devotional stage fructifies, and the fruit grown there in the form of love of God are tangibly tested by the devotees, even though he is in this material world. Wow. So the devotee is there, the creeper goes there, and the creeper reaches there, and the fruit, the pure devotees of the Lord who are in the Vaikuntha will relish and taste. The ripe fruits of love of God are relished only by the devotees constantly engaged in the watering process described above. But the working devotees must always mindful so that the creeper which has grown will not cut off. Therefore, he should be mindful of following the considerations. So it is a continuous process. One never gets perfected. It is a continuous process as long as we are in this body, in this material world. So the Prabhupada lists out, offense by one at the feet of a pure devotee may be likened to the mad elephant who devastates very good garden if it enters. So Prabhupada lists out one. Number two, one must be very careful to guard himself against such offenses at the feet of pure devotees, just as one protects a creeper by all around fencing. This is the second factor we discussed. The third one, so it so happens that by watering, the process of weeds are also grown, and unless such weeds are uprooted, the nurturing of the main creeper of the bhakti may be hampered. What does it mean? So when we grow up in bhakti, we feel that we are growing, and we are watering by reading the scriptures and chanting the holy name. Unknowingly, the weeds also grow along with that. The pride, ego, envy, everything. Very subtle. The pride is, we will not know only. After the completion of the class, we will say, we are ready to hear a comment from a devotee that your class is so beautiful, Prabhu. And we are ready to give that, forward that to Guru. But before that, we are eagerly waiting. Many devotees, after giving a fantastic class, they will not give a one moment to get any glory. Before that, also, it is great, it is very late, I am leaving. Hare Krishna, we'll see later. Because they know that it is a weed going to grow inside as the matter of pride if we get glorification from the other devotee. My process is done. I came here for my own purification. I have given whatever I have repeated whatever I heard from other devotees for my own purification. That is the only agenda of giving classes. And if at all it helps others to uh, grow up in their bhakti, that is a concomitant factor. That is a side effect of my class. But the original effect is for myself. That's what the pure devotees talk about. So the weed should be given proper attention and they should be removed. And the fourth one, actually these weeds are material enjoyment, merging of self in the absolute without the separate individuality, and many other desires in the field of religion, economic development, enjoyment, emancipation. These are all, we all know the Chatur Purushartha is a weed. If you follow the Vedas and follow the Chatur Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, it's a weed for our bhakti. So the devotees never care about that. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks us to follow the Pancham Purushartha. Pancham Purushartha is getting the love of the God. That is the only purpose of getting human form of life. Other all, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, all other possible in all other living entities. We do not have a human form of life. The fifth one, there are many other weeds like disobedience to the tenets of the revered scriptures, unnecessary engagements, killing animals, and hankering after material gains, prestige, and adoration. These are all weeds. Weeds grows in different ways. In very subtle way, we will not know this only. So one should be very careful. Prabhupada lists out. And the sixth one, if sufficient care is taken, then the watering process may only help the breed the weeds. Okay, if the sufficient care is not taken, then the watering process may only help the breed of weeds, stunting the healthy growth of the main creeper and resulting in no fructification of the ultimate requirement, love of God, Pancham Purushartha. So if we are not careful enough to take out the weeds, the amount of water we pour in by the process of chanting and reading the scripture will go only to nurture the weeds, and the main creeper will stay there, and sometimes it will go dry only. We can see that also. Sometimes we don't feel any rasa, any taste in doing all this process, mechanically doing, because if we closely watch, there is no distraction in bhakti, but our attraction towards many other things, we think that it is detraction. It is not detraction. If you follow the words of Amarendra Prabhu, he says that attraction means, distraction means attraction towards something else. It is not coming voluntarily. It is not coming up on its own. We go in pursuit of that. Seventh one, the devotee must therefore be very careful to uproot the different weeds in the very beginning. Only then will the healthy growth of the main creeper not to be stunted. And by doing so, the devotee is able to release the fruit of the love of God and thus live practically with the Lord Krishna. Even in this life, and able to see the Lord every step of life, and after leaving the body, face to face in the Lord's abode. Here, knowingly, unknowingly, or mostly knowingly, Daksha is doing this offense, and Mother Sati, and she's doing fitting response by quitting her body. Because in the beginning, we discussed what should be the responses. So this is what she's doing. And in Prabhupada, in every canto, in every chapter, in every possible words, is describing about the offenses of This one we only covered up to second canto, up to sixth chapter. There are many verses purport mentions about this one. So we'll stop here. Where in 6 7 minutes are there. If any questions or discussion, we open for that. Hare Krishna. Banbihari Mataji, can you please add something on this?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yeah, it was very, very nice. You gave like practical example, and like you also put your own self into the example, and you try to understand this Vaishnava Prad and basic social norms within the society of Krishna consciousness. Um, but of course, it should not be like a total suffering for a devotee. Like if one is not able to actually pinpoint something really bothering in another devotee just because of the fear of the Vaishnava Prad. I mean, see, of course, we know people say we see faults in others because it's there in us. But if something is bothering, it's very nice way to bring this up. Like once I heard Varja Bihari Prabhu. Now he said that sometimes we don't want to tell to the devotees that something is bothering us. So he said that one of the senior brahmacharis, no, he was doing so much service and he was not getting any appreciation. So he said, um,
Any
मैं तो आपको
appreciation?
इतना yeah, so Vraj Bihari
Okay.
Prabhu said that he was not giving any appreciation to Vraj Bihari Prabhu. So he one day said, प्रभु मैं आपका इतना करता हूँ सब करता हूँ, आप खुश नहीं है क्या? So then he himself realized that he was not appreciating enough Vraj Bihari Prabhu, like when he was a young brahmachari, he was recalling. So sometimes there is a need, and if you just go out to the devotee and try to understand, is there something that is offensive or you're not served well, it's good. Then the devotee may realize, oh, I'm not kind of appreciating this devotee or that. So it's like sometimes we should not just keep thinking that, oh, we'll make an offense and we should not. So Brajari Prabhu brought this point that there is an emotional need. So emotional need, Prabhuji brought because he could not anymore contain that. He was doing all seva and everything, but he was this Prabhu was not responding with him. So he says that I just told him, are you not happy with my services? And he started appreciating him, and he actually realized in a subtle way that he was making a mistake by not acknowledging and appreciating. So that is also good. So we should be, I would say, we should be very, very careful. We should not offend, but at the same time, if there are some needs and it's a society, we have to communicate also. It's not that we don't communicate our heart out, because in any way we don't want to offend the devotees anyway. So it's just that sometimes some emotional needs are there. So this was one of the thing I wanted to add. Of course, always taking guard and begging forgiveness if unknowingly we commit any offense. So yeah, I think Prabhuji explained very nicely. And the
Hare Krishna.
Shastras in Dakshin are also very, very strict about it. So yeah,
Yeah.
basically one will not offend if one is knowing the value and importance of Vaishnavas. In our life, we know we cannot sustain without Vaishnavas' mercy. So one will not really one will not offend unless and until one is really in some kind of a deep despair, and one has been really directly hurt or something. One may not even think in his mind that something wrong has been done by a Vaishnava. He will not even commit mental offense. Forget about speaking or doing anything. So all the devotees are really loving each other and want to cooperatively help each other to go back to Krishna. So yeah, the offense part, actually it's there nowhere. But if it is there, if somebody thinks there is some kind of an offense, it's always good to talk it out rather than just keep it nurturing and within the mind. Sometimes a simple talk or sometimes a simple clarity will bring forth, okay, there is no Vaishnava Prad breeding within. Sometimes we may not talk for ages, and then suddenly we just cultivate some ideas that devotee is good for everyone, but he's not in your mind. So that kind of a thing should not, that's not very healthy.
Right.
So things should be No, it's a society and healthy communication is always required. So, of course, offense is never intended because in our heart we know the love and respect for the Vaishnavas, what is their position.
Right.
So that's where I'm coming from. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So wonderful. The Vrajabhari Prabhu's the, the incident. I'm thinking it's a very subtle thing. Prabhu is asking others, other devotee, whether you are not happy with the service mean. Before that, in somewhere inside, even he is taking risk to ask this one, because even that devotee may think, or any other devotee who hears that may think, uh, Prabhu wants a bit of credit for his service. That's a risk of taking, like a, they may think that he's developing pride inside, but he's doing that, he did that only to help the other devotee to come up. So devotees, even by taking the bit of risk, they help others to come up. That's what I am taking on this call, Manaji. What do you think on that?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Because sometimes the senior devotees are so much busy with the sevas, kind of they take for granted that no, the young devotees are actually doing their, and they're motivated on their own. But their motivation is 100 times multiplied when the senior devotees appreciate. So that was the point that Brajbihari Prabhu probably was bringing, that when he was a young brahmachari, he was not getting that appreciation and he was feeling that emotional need. So he just talked it out. So
Right.
no offenses, like they're still, forever good friends. So
Correct.
I mean, the very aspect is it's a society and everybody has their needs. Rather than just nurturing so many things in our mind, one can, uh, in a very balanced way, just ask and approach.
Yeah. But I have personal experience, Madaji. I think I told this before also. I offended one devotee in my beginning of my spiritual journey. Did you hear this one?
I don't remember, Prabhu.
In maybe the same year, when the Bhagavatam class going on, one elderly devotee was giving class. He was so good in Malayalam, but that day it was class in English. He was not giving properly, in the sense, not like not locking every devotee. Like it's a okay class like that. And he was referring to some contemporary issues, some politics, in relating to that subject, something like that it was going on. I was sitting in the back of the class. One devotee pushed, and we said that he's deviating them from the class. I said, I'm a very new, like any gathering, I'm just sitting, and he's again said, you tell him that you are deviating from the class, because we are so close. I am senior, I cannot say. You can say, you are new boy. I don't know. When he said that, I told loudly, Prabhu, you are deviating from the class. Then he shocked, he lost the flow, and he said, yeah, Prabhu, I'm coming to the point. Like that he said and finished. But I felt something, even though I am just 3-4 classes, I felt that I did a grave mistake. I should have not. If he wants to say, he should have told me, told him directly. Why he
Yeah,
used
very
this one?
funny. And actually, yeah, people sometimes push others to get
Yeah,
their means. Yeah, not good.
but Mataji, honestly speaking, this mad elephant only. What happened? Next week I don't go into class only. How I will face this Panjay Tattva Pranadas Prabhu. I'm feeling so embarrassed. I'm not coming to the next week class. And I happened to go that I went to India. And my sister is a Shamala Shakti Devadas who left body couple of years before. He was a wonderful devotee. And she said, let us go to this one, like one convention is happening on ISKCON, we'll go there. Then when Maharaj sat on the first day, first morning class, he said, if we are doing Vaishnava Aparadh, you will not get any taste in Krishna consciousness. And I said, oh, Maharaj, right straight on face, he is talking to me. Then, okay, I was waiting. And he said, the solution is go search pull that devotee, fall on his feet, and beg his genuine uh, mercy, then you will be all right. And I said, okay, Maharaj, Krishna's mercy. Immediately I got that. Then I came back after vacation. I called him in front of everyone. I asked him to sit in the center of the hall and fell down. And he being a pure devotee, he never thought anything about that. Why are you doing all this? Please forgive me. Why should I forgive you? Then I told this what happened. Oh, come on. I did not notice that only. No problem, Prabhu. You keep this one habit, you will become a devotee. So I really, that's a mad elephant only. This is my personal experience.
Yeah, Prabhu, that's true. But yeah, the thing is, still, if something is bothering, especially as a neophyte, if something is bothering, one can clarify. And those devotees who have maturity, I think they will never take any offense. So
Yeah, they will never.
everything gets balanced. Everything gets balanced ultimately.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna, any questions, comments? Okay, thank you all. Thank you all joining us today. We'll meet you tomorrow. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sundarbhyascha
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
Hare Krishna, Pranam Prabhu. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
आज की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे
हरि हरि बोल।
हरे